Hey, hello everybody. Welcome to tonight's Discover ASEA presentation. We're our expert in the house. Let me just click through here. My name is Bart Kotter. I've got the pleasure and honor of being with you this evening and talking with you about what is being called the most significant health, anti-aging, and sports performance breakthrough of our lifetime. This is truly a phenomenal breakthrough, and I'm very excited to share this with you. So if you're a guest tonight, there could be different reasons why you've joined this call. And I just kind of want to run through these because it might be food for thought. Maybe you might even find that you've got another reason why you're here that you hadn't even thought of. Perhaps you're here because you have a health challenge, a health issue, and you've been told that there's a technology here that could really help your body to do what it's supposed to do to help heal itself. If that's the case, I want to tell you you're definitely in the right place. We're going to share with you some incredible results that can take your health to a whole nother level. In fact, maybe it isn't even about having a health challenge. Maybe you just do want to take your health to a whole nother level. The other thing is maybe you know someone who you care about. In fact, I would say that we all know people that we care about, people that we love. And if you know someone who you care about who's dealing with something quite serious, my question for you, if you knew that and if you thought you had something that could help them, would you tell them about it? I hope that the answer for all of us is not just yes, but of course I would, because this technology is changing lives in a big way. And for many people, it could be people who are dealing with major challenges. And it's so rewarding when we can help other people and we can really truly make a difference in their lives. Hey, is anyone on this call interested in looking and feeling younger? Would anyone like to look, let's say, 23% younger in the next 28 days or so? I think we all would. I'm going to show you some before and afters. I'm going to show you some of the science where we can truly show people how to turn back the hands of time, reverse aging, or certainly slow down the aging process significantly. Also, athletes. What would an athlete do to have a competitive edge? Just about anything. We can show athletes how to have an incredible competitive edge legally and safely. And even if you don't really think of yourself as an athlete, what if you have just an active lifestyle? Do you want to get more out of your day? Do you want to be able to, just really suck the juice out of the day and be able to do more, be more, have more vitality and energy, whether it be with your kids or grandkids? So athletic performance or just your basic performance every day. Now, I've got this fifth one circled because this was an important one for my wife and I. That's a proactive approach to health. I remember years ago, a doctor said, may you never know what you're preventing. Think about it. That is pretty bold, big statement. We all know people whose lives have been turned upside down overnight because they had a heart attack or a stroke or an aneurysm. Or maybe they were just told that they had a very serious cellular health challenge that, maybe they wanted to start doing chemo and radiation treatments or something like that because they were just informed about a major health challenge they didn't even know about. So if we could prevent those challenges, if we could do something that really empowers your body to heal, wouldn't that make a whole lot more sense to begin with? So proactive approach to health is really, really important, certainly was for us. And then is there anybody on this call who is interested in, let's put it this way, do you have room in your bank account for more? If you do, I would really encourage you to take a look at the business side of ASEA as well, because ASEA has chosen to market this product via word of mouth instead of spending millions of dollars in advertising and so forth. We're going to get into that. Regardless of whatever your reason is, what I'd like you to do is just to sit back and have some fun with us as we go through this technology and decide, I guess the question is, I've shared with you what our two reasons are, but what's your number one reason and maybe your second reason? All of these reasons are important though. So I just wanted to share with you briefly before, it was September of 2014. I just want to share with you where I was at in my life, or my wife and I, where we were at. And as I go through this exercise, I'd really like you to personally take an inventory, take an assessment of where you're at in your own personal life. For example, I'd been involved with the company for about 19 years. That company had really lost its way. And not only that, but I was dealing with some legal issues that just kept going on and on and on. So for career, out of 1 out of 10, I was actually even making good money, but I wasn't happy where I was at. And the income was declining due to the company who just really kind of lost their way, lost their ethics, and didn't feel good. So consequently, even though it seemed like the money wasn't bad, but it always seemed like that there was more month than there was money. I don't know if you can relate with that, but it just was kind of spooky because, like I mentioned, the income was going down, not up, and that was based on the company I was with at the time. So personal growth was kind of minimal because of the stress. If you're dealing with a lot of stress in your life, sometimes you just don't feel inspired. So maybe you're not growing the way you'd want to. Health wasn't bad. My wife and I have always been interested in alternative health, but again, when you're dealing with a lot of stress in your life and challenges, sometimes the focus isn't there, and it just affects other areas. Family life wasn't bad, but there's some stress. Fortunately, I've got a lady of my dream. She's my angel, and so she's stuck by my side through thick and thin, and so we've had a great relationship. Social life, when you're dealing with a lot of challenges in your life, it seems like, at least for us, I didn't really want to go talk with people because it seemed like the only thing to talk about was the problems, the challenges. And so on a scale of 1 to 10, that certainly had some room for improvement, as well as attitude, because it just felt like being stuck. The point here is that if this was a wheel and you tried to roll that wheel down the road, it'd roll pretty bumpy. It wouldn't roll smooth at all. And so the thing is that for things to change, I needed to make some changes. And in fact, we were looking for a change. As I mentioned in the reasons, we were looking for financial security. We were looking for a vehicle that could create some, where we could really make a difference for other people and could create this financial security. And we had to get it right. And so to just tell you, in September of 2014, I was invited to fly to Salt Lake City and meet this gentleman right here, Vertus Norton. I was there to meet the founder of the company. I met the atomic medical physicist, which is this gentleman here, Dr. Gary Samuelson, who did what science, well, for 2 decades said was impossible to do, and that was to stabilize the molecules that we're going to be talking about today. I'm going to be talking a little later about this gentleman here, Mal Sword, and then another good friend of ours, Mal Sword, actually flew to Salt Lake City to meet these gentlemen as well. And it was actually Ed Weems. This is the gentleman who invited us to fly to Salt Lake City. This is our sponsor in ASEA. And some of the other people who I've actually been involved with from another company that were there as well, who have found a brilliant home with ASEA and have just told me with their hearts filled with conviction and passion that this was something that was truly worthwhile. So I'll get a little bit more into this story, but I want to just tell you that I was blown away what I saw. In fact, I remember when I was sitting in the boardroom with Vertus Norton and the executive team of ASEA, I had goosebumps everywhere. I knew that this was my home. It literally felt like I'd been lost in the desert for 20 years, and I had found my home, my oasis. I remember Vertus Norton said, if people really understood what we have our hands on, he said, we would be bigger than Apple Computer overnight. Because of how profound this technology is. So I'm jumping ahead of myself just a little bit, but I wanted to give you an idea of kind of what our journey was coming into ASEA and this technology, and where I had a chance to meet the founders originally, the atomic medical physicists, the people who were behind this. Now, as we get started, let me just make a little disclaimer. I'd like to tell you that ASEA's products are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease or medical condition. What these products do, what this technology does, it empowers your own body to do what it's meant to do best, which is to heal itself. Now, I don't know about you, but I personally believe that God gave us this incredible body, which is designed to heal itself, but we got to put the right things in it. We got to give it the right things. And you're going to learn tonight about some molecules that are native to our body. It's the way that we heal, and how ASEA has improved that. So, what I'd like to do first is, as we go through this, is I'd like to just do a little bit of a reality check and just talk about basically the size and the scope of the market and the concerns that we have in our market. So if we do a reality check on, now these are statistics just for Australia, but let me just tell you that the 3 leading causes of death in Australia, number 1 is heart disease. So it's a pretty major challenge. The second thing is dementia and Alzheimer's disease. So I know that I know that a lot of professionals and health professionals and people that are really looking at the future are very concerned about where we're even going to put the aging population. Aged care homes and so forth is a pretty important thing, particularly as more and more people get Alzheimer's disease. So it's pretty serious. The third one is stroke. So these are pretty important things. Now, what is the cause of some of these issues? Well, let's take a look. If we look at the pyramid of health, you got to realize that we live and we die at the cellular level. So we're actually made up of about 75 trillion cells. Those cells create tissues, those tissues create organs, those organs create systems, and that creates you. So everything happens at the cellular level. So when our cells are healthy, then we're healthy. And it's really important to realize that we need to address our health at the foundation, fundamental, at the head of the spring, so to speak, where it all begins, and that's at the cells. In fact, and so let's just take a look at a cell. This would be an unhealthy cell. You can see it's in kind of an odd shape, and the cell membrane is hard, it's rigid. And what the problem with this is that the nutrition just simply can't get into the cell, not very much of it. And even more importantly, the waste products can't get out. And so this just becomes a little pool of toxicity, which can lead to all sorts of problems. Now, this would be a healthy cell. It's nice and round. You've got the nucleus of the cell, which looks quite healthy. Nutrients can get in, waste products can get out. The cell membrane is soft and it's permeable. So cells are damaged by oxidative stress, which is toxins and inflammation. Also viruses, infection, bacteria, and free radicals. This all leads to the oxidative stress. So as we take a look at this, this is a representation of a cell, just like an apple, for example. And as oxidative stress breaks down our cells, this happens because of free radicals. So this would be a normal cell, this is free radicals, and this would be a cell with oxidative stress. Oxidative stress at the cellular level represents the body's inability to readily detoxify or repair cellular damage from the toxins and inflammation. So it's interesting when we look at the environment. Let's just take a look at this. This is very interesting. There was a study done in the US where they took a sample of blood from the umbilical cords, and there was, on average, there were 287 chemicals that were found, which is really quite shocking in the umbilical cords of infants. Now, on average, the average consumer is exposed to 127 chemicals a day simply from the body care products that they use. It's interesting when you look at the ingredients, and if you study the ingredients in many of the face care products, they're actually loaded with all kinds of things that are literally carcinogenic. They're toxic. So they're really not healthy, even though people are spending a lot of money on some of these products and thinking they're doing something for cosmetically healthy for their face. Also, there are over 10,000 chemicals that are used in our food processing industry, and most of them have never been tested. So, what we eat can be quite dangerous. Not only that, the air that we breathe is polluted, our soils are depleted, and the list goes on and on. So, what this actually means is all of these things literally turn off the genes in our body. Now, very interesting. I didn't realize until several years ago that our genes are subject, the genes in your body are subject to being turned on and turned off. 95% of them are. So this is all pretty important. Now, the genes are going to be an important thing that I'm going to talk about here again in just in just a moment. But so keep that in mind. But also realize that too many people are digging their graves with a fork by making food choices based on instant gratification and food addictions. So look, we need to take responsibility for our health, for our food choices. There's a very high percentage of Australians that are obese. Of course, that statistic is all around the world. Americans are certainly way up in that statistic as well. So this is interesting because there's been a lot of studies that show that our gut is like our second brain. It really plays a huge role. Our gut health plays a huge role in our overall health and our mental health as well. Now, the second challenge that we have is a reduced number of what's called redox molecules, redox signaling molecules. So here's the thing, I'm going to explain exactly what redox molecules are here in a second. But starting at the age of about puberty, every decade our body loses the ability to produce redox signaling molecules. These are the molecules that are responsible for cell-to-cell communication. And so, you know, it looks like this. As we age, we get more wrinkles. We literally shrink. We don't heal as quickly as we did when we were a child. And so it's important. What if we could show you how to heal like you were a teenager again? That would be a pretty big deal. It would be like having the fountain of youth, maybe even the Holy Grail, so to speak. Well, that's exactly what we've got here. And let me explain this. So showing this pyramid again, this pyramid of our cellular health literally starts with redox signaling molecules. Those little molecules are created in the mitochondria of the cell. Now, in every cell of our body, in fact, half of your dry body weight would be mitochondria. If you're not familiar with what mitochondria is, don't worry about it, except for just realize that it's the nuclear power plant of the cell. It is what creates energy. Energy is called, it's called ATP, adenosine triphosphate. So every time you blink your eyes, every time you think a thought, every time that you move your arms, your legs, or whatever you do, that's all energy, that's ATP, that's created from the cell. It's literally created in the mitochondria of the cell. And here's the interesting thing. As the cell creates that energy, it kicks off these little molecules called redox signaling molecules. Redox stands for reductant and oxidant molecules. That's why it's called redox. Now, what's interesting about these molecules is they're fleeting, literally meaning that they last about a millionth of a second. And in that millionth of a second, what they do is they detect, they protect, they repair, and they replace damaged cells. So they serve a very, very important purpose. In fact, they also activate antioxidants, or the free radicals. We've all heard about antioxidants. Antioxidants are literally worthless without redox signaling. It's like having a light bulb without electricity. So these molecules literally make the antioxidants in your body actually effective. They're also, in fact, up to 800%. And they activate your body's ability to produce glutathione, for example, which is a super master antioxidant activator. They are also immune system communicators. So they attack the viruses and the bacteria that are not healthy for your body. And guess what else they do? They turn on genes. They turn on the genetic expression. So all of this is done. Now, what's remarkable to me is to realize, I mentioned that there's 75 trillion cells, to realize that in every one of these cells, there's anywhere from 10 to 7,000 mitochondria. So if you think how small a cell would be, and then they look inside the cell, and then to realize that these little molecules are produced in a millionth of a second, it's remarkable that they even discovered them. In fact, it was in 1998 that 3 gentlemen actually won a Nobel Prize for discovering these, what these molecules actually do. Again, these cells create tissues that create organs that create us. So this literally is the pyramid of health, and this is the foundation of that health. Now, if your body stopped producing these molecules right now, you would be dead literally within seconds. That's how important they are. So this is one of the fastest growing areas of science there is. So ASEA is literally the global leader in cellular health, in the cellular health industry. And this technology, these redox signaling molecules, are a category creator. So I've explained how the body produces these molecules. So what actually happens here is, how does ASEA produce them? Well, it's a 3-step patented process. So ASEA takes exactly the same ingredients that our body uses to produce them. Now think about this. Our body is mostly what? You've heard that you're mostly made up of water. In fact, you're mostly made up of salt water, right? So think about it. Your tears are salty, your sweat's salty, your amniotic fluid is salty. If you get injured, what do? They hook you up to an IV with salt water. But ASEA takes pristine salt water and it goes through a process where the salt water is broken down into free-floating atoms of sodium chloride, hydrogen, and oxygen. And then the magic takes place through this electrolysis, this electrochemical process where the atoms are literally restructured into stabilized redox signaling molecules. It's a highly patented process. It takes 3 days to do this process. And after that process, what you end up with is a bottle of ASEA, a bottle of ASEA, and a bottle of ASEA would literally have trillions and trillions and trillions of these stabilized molecules. Now, the gentleman who was in that one of those first photos that I showed you is this gentleman, Dr. Gary Samuelson. He is an atomic medical physicist. There's only a handful of people at his caliber in the world. And he said this technology has the potential to spearhead the greatest advances in health that we have ever seen. Absolutely remarkable gentleman. When he's figured out how to stabilize these molecules, the people at the scientists at Utah, let's see, the University of Utah, excuse me. There's Utah State University and the University of Utah. The scientists there said, yeah, you couldn't have done it. It's impossible, but that's exactly what's happened. In fact, how do we know that he's done that? Well, we've got an ASEA supplement bottle here. This company called Bioagiletics. They are an independent company. They're a research laboratory. Half of their staff are PhDs. They actually work with 21 of the top 25 pharmaceutical companies globally. And they literally certify, they verify, they validate that every batch of ASEA is Redox certified. So they test, verify, validate, all that. Now, the interesting thing is that the largest organ of our body is what? It's our skin, right? So here's what's interesting. ASEA actually invested 5 years trying to figure out how they could put these molecules in an application for the skin. In fact, initially what people were doing is they were taking the ASEA, they were putting in, like, for example, a spray bottle, they were spraying it in their eyes, eyesight was improving, spraying it in their skin was improving, but they knew they had an application for the skin. So they developed Renew 28, which is a gel, which is, it's actually a concentrated version of these molecules in this gel for the skin. So this is cellular health from the inside out with the ASEA and cellular health from the outside in with the Renew 28. Now, by the way, it's called Renew 28 because healthy skin renews itself every 28 days. So this has actually been developed into a full skincare line, which is quite remarkable. There's a cleanser. Then there's also the Renew 28. You put a serum on after that, which is a super concentrated version of the molecules. And then there's a phenomenal moisturizer, which really smells and feels amazing. And these are all designed to work synergistically together. So it is a fantastic skincare line. And by the way, I didn't think I'd get excited about skincare products as a guy, but I got to tell you, number one, I really love to use these products myself, but also the skincare market is actually 20 times larger than the supplement market. It's a massive market. People are looking to really, there's a huge desire out there for people to feel good and look good. Now, the other thing I want to emphasize is ASEA is the only place in the world where you can get this exclusive breakthrough. You cannot get these molecules anywhere else. And as we talked about all the toxins and the challenges that people have with products and food and so forth, I want to let you know that all of this is 100% safe, non-toxic, native to the body. What that means is it goes beyond being natural. Like a bowl of blueberries would be natural. It could be healthy. But the ASEA and the Renew 28, these molecules are native to the body. It's exactly what your body produces. So your body recognizes it straight away. The other thing is that there's no parabens, no artificial colors. It's all completely super high quality and super safe as well. Now, something very important. People want to say, well, is it validated? Is there research behind this? I want to tell you there's massive research behind this. I've already talked about Bioagiletics as a study, as a company. But there's also 2 skincare companies, Stevens & Associate. I'm going to show you some studies that have been done, as well as Dermatest out of Germany. They've got the coveted 5-star seal of approval. To do that, you have to they have to be completely safe. None of the people who have tested the products would have had any reaction whatsoever, and they were blown away with the results. Also, we got the North Carolina Research Campus, which has done some sports studies. that have been quite remarkable. And then there's a fantastic study from Turret Laboratories, which I'll mention in just a second, which is did a gene study. It's quite amazing, as well as Pacific Northwest laboratories have done some studies. So if you want the details on that, you can go to ASEA'Science.com. On that website, you'll see all the studies and the research. But I want to let you know that this is a fairly new area of study, but it's one of the fastest growing areas of studies. In fact, there's over 160,000 studies that have been published in peer review articles and medical journals, and it's growing very, very rapidly. You can actually, let's see, the other thing is there's over 1,200 books on the subject. So in fact, one of the books is the one that I'm showing, Redox Life. On the back of the book, Dr. Nareen Naidu, he's one of the gentlemen who was involved with the company who was first working on this technology. He was actually nominated for a Nobel Prize for some of the things he's done. And this is, yeah, it's an amazing book. In fact, if you want to do some research, I would encourage you to not go to Google. Google is like the bathroom wall. Anybody can write on it. So Google is not it's not a research engine, it's a search engine, and there's something entirely different. So for example, I would say go to pubmed.gov. From there, you could type in redox signaling, and then you could type in any challenge, any condition. If you just type in redox signaling molecules, you're going to find that there's thousands of studies. On that particular government site, you'll see over 19,000 studies right there on redox signaling. Now, I had mentioned before about Turret Laboratories did a gene study. This was an 8-week trial. The mean average group was 35 years old. And this is absolutely astounding. They discovered in every one of these 5 areas that the genetic expression was turned on 20 to 31% positive shift in the activation of these genetic pathways. So what we're talking about is cardiovascular health. We're talking about brain health. We're also talking about hormone modulation, which can affect moods and weight issues. Also inflammation pathways. This can affect your oxidative stress, and then your immune system pathways. So huge study, huge results with this. So I suggest to go to ASEA'Science.com. You can see all those studies. Now, here's the cool thing is seeing is truly believing. And so one thing I really love is with the Renew 28, when this came out, people were encouraged to take a before photo, and then, over time, particularly on the 28th day, to take another photo, and you can literally see the difference. So now this is interesting. Ray Dune, she actually does live blood cell analysis. She's a naturopath from Norway. She was one of the first people to use this product. She took the before photo, and this is kind of an interesting point. She actually thought that she wasn't getting very good results until she took, and this is only in 3 weeks, it's not even 28 days, 21 days. She took the after photo, put them side by side, and she was astounded to see the results. So sometimes when you're looking in the mirror every day, little by little, day by day, you may not notice the difference. That's why it's a good idea to take the before and after photos. Also, the redness and the irritation. We've had people, I mean, this is an issue that of course affects a lot of people, but especially teenagers. Can be very embarrassing, can affect self-esteem. This can be a game changer, a total life changer for them. Not only does it affect the redness and the irritation, but the scarring that is part of that will really, we've had amazing results. Cindy Lou had some rashes on her face that just wouldn't go away, part of an issue due to some medication. This is what made all the difference in the world to her. Her husband had some real serious issues that this absolutely made life-changing differences for him. And then, of course, just the everyday wrinkles that people get as you age, the signs of aging. But you can see, I mentioned, how would you like to look 23% younger after 28 days? Well, one of the studies showed that the wrinkle depth decreased 23% in 28 days. So now, this is an interesting photo. This is a lady who's 93 years old. She's obviously had a surgery on her wrist. And at this age, the molecules that you're producing is not very many, maybe 10% of what she used to produce. Doctors just hope that this will heal at all. And so after 3 weeks, look at the difference. You can barely see where the incision even was. Something other quite remarkable is this company called Dermatest did another study with cellulite. Cellulite affects a significant number of, was it like, I think 80% of women and 10% of men. And there was a huge difference. So there's a 20% increase in skin elasticity, 15% reduction in the appearance of cellulite. So just to skim through some of the other examples, literally a sunburn turned to more of a suntan instead of peeling and so forth. This gentleman, look at the difference around his neck. This is pretty mind-blowing. This lady, in 28 days, look at the difference in the aging effect of her arms. So literally, this isn't just for your face. This is for the whole body. Of course, you can see the anti-aging effect in this lady. Gosh, she looks 15 or 20 years younger, just in that period of time. And then, of course, this gentleman, you can see that he's got some real challenges with his hands of a skin issue that he's had some benefit from. One of my favorite stories is Rosie. Rosie was 84 years old. Her son is a chiropractor. He got her on the products, and 7 weeks later, she came into his office and she said, "Hey, I want to cancel my orders. I want to stop my orders." And he said, "Well, why is that, Mom?" And she said, "Well, it obviously isn't doing anything for me." And he said, "Well, Mom, we did take a before photo. Let's take an after photo." And this was the after photo that they took. And I want you to look at this. Look around the neck, look around her eyes. And I'm sure that you see what I do. I mean, Rosie looks like she looks like she's 20 years younger. It absolutely is astounding. Needless to say, Rosie stayed on the product. This is her at 86, and this is Rosie at 87. So truly, you can add years to your life. You can add life to your years. And it's just remarkable to see what goes on. So it's important to kind of benchmark, maybe take some before and after photos, benchmark how you feel, how you sleep, how your energy is. But I can tell you with 100% certainty that these products work 100% of the time on 100% of the people, whether they realize it or not. They're getting incredible benefits because these molecules have to work. They are what your body produces to heal. Now, thermal imaging is pretty exciting stuff because you can actually see where the inflammation, the heat is in your body. So just to briefly show this is a lumpectomy. If you take this gel, for example, and you apply it 3 times in about 5 to 10 minutes, it will actually soak in, it will work in depth. So it's not just skin deep, but it will actually, those molecules will go to work in depth. So this is interesting. You can see the inflammation, the heat in his hand. Looks pretty intense and pretty sore. This is what happened literally in just applying the gel 3 times in this, and then waiting 8 minutes. You can see the back, same thing. The inflammation and the heat is down. Knees, lower back, these are all similar issues. Now, one of the issues that I talked about, or one of the reasons that you might be here, is athletes. We all know some athletes, or we all want to have an active lifestyle. Just want to tell you that they had remarkable results with athletes. Cody Miller is a Olympic athlete. In fact, he just set a new world record in the breaststroke. He won a gold medal and a bronze medal in the 2012 Olympics. Bria Larson, she actually started on these products. Well, she started drinking ASEA when she was in high school, and she became an ASEA athlete and also won a gold medal in the Olympics. Eddie Hall, strongest man in the world. They literally call him the Beast. These results that these athletes, there's so many athlete stories. We're talking about athletes who thought they were going to have to quit their profession, hang up their cleats, so to speak, and because they just couldn't compete. They couldn't practice hard enough to really compete at the level that they needed to. They got in these products and they found that they had more endurance, better recovery, better mental stamina. Now, they actually use the ASEA as well as the Renew 28. Now, like I talked about before in the areas of discomfort, athletes, for example, a swimmer, Bria talks about rubbing the Renew 28 on her legs and arms before and after she swims. She doesn't get the burn of the lactic acid and so forth. It really helps. You can actually go to athletes.aseaglobal.com and you can read up about all the different athletes that are doing phenomenal results. In fact, locally, right here on the Gold Coast, we've got Hemi and Kina. These two, it's a husband and wife, they're in their 50s, and they actually both on the same night competed for, it would be in the Masters category, but they both won literally the world championship in boxing. So fantastic couple, and they are ASEA athletes. Kina was wondering, it was a big concern because of some back challenge that she had, whether she would even be able to compete or not. And not only did she compete, but they won every round both of them won every round, and yet unanimous decision on their fight. So they are remarkable athletes, and it's just so exciting to see how this can give athletes a competitive edge. Now, I've got one last story that I'd like to share with you. This is kind of a personal story. At the beginning, I showed you a picture of Dan Doyle and Mal Sword standing in front of the ASEA offices. When I first flew over there, one of the first people I thought of was Danny. I knew that Dan had a serious health challenge. Now, let me give you a little history. Dan, at age 24, he owned a gym. Actually, in the 20 years, he's owned and developed and sold 20 different businesses. He's quite an entrepreneurial guy. You can see that he takes things pretty serious. He's got a trophy here next to him for his bodybuilding. Well, at age 44, he's still pretty fit, but he noticed a lump on his side. He went and got it checked, and come to find out, he was told he had 2 very, very serious blood disorders. Now you can see the treatments that he went through. He doesn't have a hair on his body. He said he's got kind of a fake smile on. He's not feeling all that great because of the things that he was hooking up to and the treatments that he underwent. He said he wouldn't wish that on his worst enemy. They told him 2.5 years later, they told him, after going through the hell of these treatments, they told him to go home and get his affairs in order. There was nothing more that they could do for him. Well, I called Danny and I said, Danny, I found something I think can help you. I encouraged him to come over to Salt Lake City. Said he had never even heard of Salt Lake City, wasn't familiar with Salt Lake, but I said, look, Dan, I can get you over here, and I'd really like you to meet these people. So I want to tell you, this is a picture of Dan when he flew to Salt Lake, and this is a picture of his, look underneath his eyes and his skin, and he's certainly not the picture of health. Remember, he was there in the boardroom. We were knocking down, there was free ASEA on the table and in the waiting room and so forth. So he probably drank a half a bottle to a bottle that day. And the next day he literally broke out with all these pimples on his chest and his back. And he's thinking, geez, what's going on? Am I having some sort of reaction to this product? Am I allergic to it? Or maybe it's something from the plane that I'm detoxing from. Well, what was happening, even though he'd been on an extremely clean diet, the toxins were pouring out of his system faster than what he could normally detox. So he needed to drink more water. Well, there's more to that story, but just to kind of cut to the chase, I want to tell you, this is Dan 1 year later in 2015. I want you to notice the difference. This is after he just got done meeting with his doctor and had a clean bill of health. Blood work came back normal just one year later. The doctor still can't figure it out. And this is from a post that Danny put on his Facebook site. He says, I'm so thankful and grateful that this breakthrough technology returned my health and has given us the ability to help so many others. In fact, I talked to Danny this morning. He was over in Malaysia working with some people, making a difference and sharing this technology globally. So I just want to tell you, I want to emphasize that you can truly make a huge difference. It's so exciting what we can do, the difference we can make in people's lives. And Danny's thanked me many times for introducing him to this technology, and has literally said it saved his life. So I got to tell you from my heart, that feels pretty good. Now, the second thing that we need to address, certainly we talked about the redox signaling molecules. We've talked about how we can boost those molecules, how we can improve our cellular health, but there's still the nutrition aspect of this. So keep in mind that ASEA is not a food. It's not vitamins, it's not minerals. It's the cell-to-cell communication. It's like having your mobile phone and make sure that when you're on a call, you can actually hear who you're talking to. It's instead of being on one bar where the signal's dropping out and you really can't hear. That's about boosting the signal. But let's take a look. I've already showed you a little bit of this, these unhealthy cell versus a healthy cell. We need to make sure that we get the proper nutrition in and get the waste products out. So redox signaling, or these redox molecules, restore the integrity of the cell so the vital nutrition can get back into the cell. So let's just take a look at this. I want you to think of the redox molecules like the builder. Okay, it's the guy who's building your house. But if you've got a house there, you've got all these building materials. You have to have the right things to build your house with. So that would be the nutrition, the food that we eat, and certainly the supplements that we take. So redox signaling molecules provide the labor that detects, protects, and rejuvenates the cells, allowing the nutrients, the materials that nourish the body so that to be used properly by the cell. So ASEA has a nutrition line, which is very exciting. LifeMax, Source, and Biome. This is a gut health. And there was one more that didn't make it into my PowerPoint, but it's Omega. And all these products are absolutely top of the line. Now, for the sake of time, I'm not going to go into the details on these, but you can go to ASEA'S.com and you can learn all about these. They're absolutely top of the line. So if you take, if you're already taking nutritional supplements, I would strongly encourage you to replace it with these nutritional products because they are second to none. They work very synergistically with the ASEA product, and literally you're not going to find better products on the market today. So cellular health from the inside, and this is including the nutrition, cellular health from the outside. And this just says the Avia range currently is not for resale. So what that means is we just simply can go on our website. We can order these wholesale if you're an associate, and it's shipped from the United States. So they're currently working to get TGA approval so that we can have them stocked and marketed directly here in Australia. So I want to give you just a very quick synopsis of the nutritional products. The source is 24 nutrient-dense superfoods, whole food micronutrients. The biome, we talked about gut health, is so vital. You probably heard about probiotics. Well, if you go to the health food store, you might get a bottle. It's like a belly balm. It might be billions of one particular probiotic. This is actually 16 different probiotics, but there's also a prebiotic, which is a fertilizer that really helps. And there's also marshmallow root, which really helps your gut health as also. The LifeMax is a phenomenal product line. There's 16 distinctive phytonutrients, including astragalus and gotu-kola. And this actually is pretty amazing because it helps with the anti-aging, with the aging process. So it works hand in hand with the ASEA. Just as a summary, these nutrients are the building blocks. They support cellular health. They regenerate healthy cell, or they regulate healthy cell division. They also help you to assimilate, help the cells assimilate vitamins and minerals. I'm talking about specifically the BioVia, the Biome product right here. And also they soothe the digestive system, the mental well-being. The LifeMax is fantastic for mental health. And also helps to build a healthy immune system, supports a healthy inflammatory response, supports the metabolism, prolongs longevity and cardiovascular health. Some of these are part of the gene study, and then helps with maintain cognitive function. So again, the LifeMax is fantastic for your mental health, and also supports the antioxidant activity, including the free radicals. So that would be the source as well as the LifeMax, and also helps to reduce stress. And the Omega is phenomenal for heart health. I mean, literally a doctor could write a prescription for the Omega. It's that good. In terms of the LifeMax, I just tell you the products that are the ingredients I mentioned before, gotu-kola and astragalus root. This was a study of an 80-year-old lady after 4 weeks. And this is the before and this is the after. And by the way, this isn't with ASEA, this isn't with Renew 28. This is simply with the LifeMax supplement with these two products. So you can see that working together, you can really turn back the hands of time. They work well together. Now, something very, very important. I would never, give someone a bottle of ASEA and say, hey, give it a go, because you want to set people up for success. You want to make sure that people are on the product long enough to where they're going to really get the results. So let me put it this way. If someone is on the product for 1 week, let's say maybe 10 to 15% of those people are going to actually notice a result with the product. Hey, I feel better, I sleep better, I have more energy. But after a month, we're talking, more like, 50, 60, 65% of the people are going to notice physical results. But after 90 days, we're talking 90 to 95%. Now, some people are just oblivious. So that's why it's important to kind of track your results, how you're feeling right right now, what your energy levels are, if you got some discomfort somewhere where you actually measure it, because believe me, people forget how they, you know, if you're hurting, you know, if you've got a headache or if you hurt somewhere, but when you feel good, you forget how you used to feel. That's why it's important to kind of monitor that. But I can tell you, as I mentioned before, with 100% certainty that these products work 100% of the time on 100% of the people. So whether they realize it or not, sometimes the molecules are working like a triage nurse, going and working on things that you may not even realize that you've got challenges with. You might have some clogged arteries or some, have some cancer cells in your body or something like that, where those molecules are going to help with the cellular communication instead of, working on the knee that might be giving you some grief. So that's very, very important. Now, we've talked about the two aspects of health. We've talked about the redox molecules. We've talked about nutrition. I want to talk about financial health and financial, kind of do a reality check on that. Now, again, these are some of the stats from Australia, but I think that we can all relate with this. I know I absolutely can. Stress from all sorts of things. You know, a lot of people are stressed about finances. And I tell you what, there's more important things to worry about than lousy debts. What if you could get past that thing? I know that, when you're, when you're trying to figure out how to just stay afloat, it's not good. And hey, any guys out there or ladies like to have financial security? I'm sure the ladies on this call can relate 100%. So it's interesting. 1 in 9 Australians report extremely high stress levels. In terms of debt, Australia is the third highest household debt in the world. And just in the last 4 years, there's been a 40% increase in antidepressants. So these are all pretty interesting things. People are looking, how do we deal with this? How do we get past that? Well, there's a solution. Number one, if you got to change your thinking to solve the problem, you can't solve the problem that you have with the same thinking that created it. And I love this picture, maximum job security. Some people, for a lot of people, if you're working a job, you love what you do, absolutely, that's fantastic. But some people, for many people, a job just stands for just over broke. Look, a lot of employers pay people just enough to keep them there. People make enough to make a living, but not really to get ahead in so many cases. So we feel like we're on this treadmill and we're so busy. Everybody's busy. And sometimes we're so busy that we really just can't see outside that treadmill. See, we're looking for all the reasons why not to look at something else. I'm too busy. What will it cost me? I think the real question is, what would it cost you not to have a look at this, not to look at the products, or perhaps not to even look at the business side of things, because maybe this can help you to get out of the rat race, like this gentleman. And who you want to learn from is people who have gotten out of the rat race, where they can actually create some security and a residual income. So the time to think about things is when the decisions are right here in front of you. And so that's what I'd encourage you to do right now, is to really listen with an open mind to a couple of things in terms of where ASEA is going. See, the opportunity, because the technology is so massive, this breakthrough is so incredible, it does provide a remarkable opportunity, because that's how we get this technology out to the world. So ASEA, the company, there's two things that I look at if I'm going to look at analyzing a business. There's actually three things: the integrity and the stability, and also the timing in terms of where we're at in the marketplace. So I'd really like to take a moment and just address some of those things. Number one, I'd really like to talk about the integrity of the founders. And there's a video that you can go to called ASEAGenesisVideo.com. It really shares the whole story with you, but I want to give you a brief synopsis of this story. So Vertus Norton was the vice president of strategy for Kraft Food. This is his background. He's one of the smartest business people on this planet. He ran a $37 billion a year company. He was Fortune 50 executive, and he tried to retire multiple times. Finally, but they kept asking him to come back because he was so good at what he did. Finally, at age 69, he retired. And it was at that time his son, Tyler Norton, who, by the way, Vertus had taught him strategy. A lot of fathers teach their kids baseball or sports or whatever, but Vertus taught his son business strategy. And so he was a Fortune 50 executive in the financial industry. And there was a company, a struggling company out of Logan, Utah, called Medical Discoveries, Inc. that was working on a technology involving cellular health technology involving these redox signaling molecules. They found themselves, they had invested about $16 million over 15 years. And this company had found themselves really having a hard time getting their product to market because the way that they had structured it. They asked Virtus if he would come in, and they invited him to have a seat on the board. They tried to raise some additional capital, found out that they couldn't really do that in the time that they needed to. So what actually happened, Virtus, through a series of events, and you can hear about that through the ASEA Genesis video. I'm going to shorten this up just a little bit. But I want to tell you, Virtus, well, in fact, I'll just tell you the story, part of the story here. Virtus was on the golf course with a friend of his, and he said, you know, there's this technology which really looks pretty exciting. This company is liquidating, but I'm thinking about making a run with this company and seeing if I can acquire the technology and move forward with it. And his friend pulled over the golf cart, pulled a check out of his wallet, wrote a great big check for a very large sum of money, and handed it to Virtus. And Virtus says, "Well, you don't even know what it is." And he said, "Doesn't matter, Virtus. I've always wanted to be in business with you. If you say this is good and worthwhile, let's do it." And so that's kind of the story of how this began. But let me just share with you what happened. They actually developed this technology with the help of Dr. Samuelson, who I've mentioned before in this presentation. And then they took a test pilot group of 40 people. 6 of this 40 people were terminal. The doctors had told them to get their affairs in order, similar to my friend Danny. And they said, so they took this group of people because they wanted to find out would people use this product. So you don't pour a cup of ASEA because you want to have a healthy, because you want to have a tasty beverage. You pour it you drink it because of the health benefits. So it doesn't taste horrible. It just doesn't taste good. But they wanted to find, will people actually use this? So this test group of 40, they turned them loose. They said, you can have as much as you want, just use it, see what happens. And they came back 2 months later, did an inventory. They discovered that this group of 40 had turned into 135 people in 20 different countries. So it was at this point in time that they knew that via word of mouth that this would really go. But more importantly, the thing that's really important about that test group of 40 or now the 135 people, are these people were having life-changing benefits with the product. The people who didn't have hope had hope again. So it was this point in time that they actually met with a pharmaceutical company. They flew in, Virtus's partner knew some people with a pharmaceutical company. It was Bart Pharmaceutical. They flew into Salt Lake City with their scientists and executives. They tested the product. They realized that they actually had the real thing. And they said, we're going to make you an offer that's so big you won't want to go anywhere else. And that was originally Virtus's idea, was they would develop it, perfect it, and flip it. And it would be a typical business deal. But they said, there's one condition. And Virtus said, well, what's that? And they said, you're going to have to shut it down. And he said, I don't understand. He said, what do you mean? We've got people who need this product, they're dependent on it. And by the way, keep in mind, these are friends, these are family members, these are people that he loved and cared about in many cases. And they said, well, their suggestion was to let them die. They said, people deal with their problems every day. Dr. Samuelson pulled Virtus aside and said, please don't sell this. This is meant for humanity. And I got to tell you, it's because of the integrity of this gentleman and also Tyler Norton and that were there. They said they took and turned down this huge offer from the pharmaceutical company. And it was on that day that they made the decision to make sure that this product was available for you and me, that we could share this with the world, that it was available. Otherwise, there would be a huge fear that this would be shelved and never see the light of day. Or if it did, it would be so expensive it wouldn't be economically affordable for certainly for the average person. So the other thing I mentioned, so integrity, that was so important to me. I needed to know who it was that I was going to be in business with. And when I met these people, I was so blown away. There's certain people, you shake their hand and you just know, you look in their eye and you just know that they're good right down to the soul. And I want to tell you that is absolutely Virtus and Tyler Norton, as well as the executive team. So as of the statistics, this is actually 2018. I need to update this slide, but in 2019, I know that went up about, I think, to 185 million in revenue. Company is just growing leaps and bounds. They own their own manufacturing facility. They own their own world headquarters right here. They've got distribution centers, 18 globally. The sales are projected to be in $1 billion in the next 5 to 7 years. So in terms of timing, could not be better timing. The capacity of this manufacturing facility, they can literally produce $1 billion worth of product a year. So they're well and truly ahead of the growth of the company. Now, in terms of business model, my background, I actually used to work for the United States Chamber of Commerce. I've talked with thousands of business owners. I love free enterprise. And if you ask business owners, what is the most effective form of marketing? We can look at TV, radio, email, posters, all these kind of things. But anybody that's been in business will tell you without hesitation, the best form of marketing is word of mouth. And as Vertus and Norton and Tyler Norton and some of their associates were trying to think, how do we get this technology to the world? They realized that they had a product which would market extremely well versus word of mouth. Not only that, if you think about it, what is this product made of? What is ASEA made of? Salt and water. If you put it on the shelf of a store and you pick it up and read the ingredients, made from, H2O and sodium, you think, are you kidding me? It looks like salt water. But I want to assure you, this is not salt water. This bottle is trillions of redox signaling molecules, so it's entirely different. It's like saying, if you look at the ingredients of a cake, for example, it had flour, butter, sugar, milk, eggs, all those kind of things. It doesn't say cake, it says what the ingredients are, and then what you end up with is something entirely different. So anyway, I'm rambling here a little bit. The word of mouth is the most important form of marketing, and that's what they chose to use. So here's the cool thing. ASEA has had year-on-year growth, but keep in mind this technology was brand new to the world. They've had to get this message out. They've had to create the science. So they've had fantastic growth, steady growth every year, but we're in a very special, unique place right now. This is actually 2018. This would be about 2019. We're on this kind of hockey stick curve growth, which is very, very exciting right now. And so amazing timing. Currently, we're actually in 35 countries, 16 languages. One of the things that's important is to realize that certainly far less than 1/10 of 1%, probably 1 person in 1,000 globally has even heard of these molecules. They don't have a clue. This is a brand new technology. We need to get the word out to this. We're currently in 35 countries, but we're expanding all over the globe. Singapore, Thailand, Taiwan, Philippines, Hong Kong, and Malaysia just recently opened. So very exciting markets. Australia is the gateway to Asia. We've got some great growth, a lot of people working those markets. Now, here's how simple this is. This is you, and let's say, for example, just like I picked up the phone and I told my friend Dan, who picked up the phone and called his friend Mal, and then I had other friends. In fact, I'll tell you, when you actually understand and realize what this technology is, if you're anything like me, you want to make sure that everybody that you care about, everybody that you love, knows about this technology. And so it didn't matter to me whether they joined me in the business side or not, just everybody needed to know about this technology. Now, what's happened in just the few years, the 5 years that Melissa and I have been involved, is we've created distribution channels all over the world, literally in 35 countries. And you can do the same too. You can create distribution channels just by word of mouth. It doesn't even matter who you know, it just matters who they know and who they know. Now, because ASEA compensates you for that word of mouth advertisement, what's happening is you're actually you get a percentage of those sales in those markets because of the market that you've literally created simply by talking with other people. So the question is, where do you see yourself? You may just see yourself as a customer, and that's perfectly fine. I encourage people to don't keep it a secret. We need to get this. We need to get this message out to the world. But some people choose to start as a customer. If you see, I want to tell you the products are not on trial. It's been time-honored, proven. I've already showed you the studies, the tests. There's literally hundreds of thousands of people that swear by the products and the technology. So many testimonials for, with virtually all kinds of things that people have seen benefit from. So if you're interested in an extra income, maybe bringing a spouse home, or if you're working a couple jobs, getting rid of one of those, creating, you know, an extra income for your family, maybe an extra 500 to 1,000, you can easily do that. Or if you're like my wife and I, where we were looking for somewhere where we could really throw our passion and our interest in to create a lifestyle income, you know, $10,000 a month, $10,000 a week or beyond. We got people, many people in our organization that are at those levels. So the best way to get started, look, you can start with whatever you want. You can start with a case of ASEA and get started. Two smart ways to get started is one is called a business pack, where you start off with a couple of cases of ASEA and a couple of cases of the Renew 28. Company gives you a half dozen free sample tubes. By doing that, you save $166. You actually acquire half a case of loyalty points toward free product, and you start at 10% in loyalty benefits. The other way, which I think makes a lot of sense, is an entrepreneur pack. You just get extra value. So the company's going to reward you. In fact, you save about $463. You get 25 sample tubes, and you've got a nice set of the products to get started with. You can start off at the 15% loyalty benefit, and you definitely got some products to use, some products to share, some products to sell if you wish as well. So so it's not a large investment from a business standpoint, but truly that decision is up to you. Get with the person who introduced you and just talk about those different options. I talked about our story and you know what you can create. In fact, let me just go back here. In the time that we've been involved with this, ASEA offers some pretty, I don't know if anybody else on this call likes to take really cool holidays and spend some time, you know, visiting the world, but we've been able to go to some pretty remarkable places and see some pretty remarkable things with people who are going places. So let me put it this way. The people who are building an ASEA business are the people who are self-motivated, they're ambitious, they're people who like helping other people, and they're also the kind of people who want more out of life. If that is you, I would encourage you, these are the kind of people that you really want to hang out with. It's just a great group of people, which also, by the way, ASEA has an Advancing Life Foundation where they're making a huge difference in the lives of other people through this charity organization. But to kind of wrap up, just got a couple slides left. I started off by telling you our story, or at least my story, where I was at. Now, I couldn't be more happy with ASEA. This is, you know, I will never see another ASEA in my lifetime. This is truly one of those lifetime opportunities. So if you wanted to be at the right place at the right time, this is a pretty good place to look. In fact, I just can't see where we'd be getting better. Financially, we've got financial freedom now. We can go where we want with who we want. I put it at 9 because there's always room for improvement. We're excited about what we're building and growing. Personal growth is something that's really important to us and important to me. So we always kind of focus on how can we improve ourselves, how we can be better. Obviously, there's always room for improvement, and health, same thing. But we're feeling great. Family's great. Excited about working with Melissa and working together so if you want to do something where you can work with a partner and create together, it's a very exciting opportunity there. Social life and attitude, this is a whole different wheel. Look, it's not perfect. There's still room for improvement in these areas, but I tell you what, this wheel would roll a whole lot more smoothly than the wheel I showed you to begin with. And we are so incredibly grateful every single day. Grateful to this man here, Vertus Norton. So excited about being able to share this with the world and be associated with people at this caliber. So, and very excited about being able to share this with Melissa too. This is a quote from Vertus, and I'm just going to wrap up with this quote. He says, "We're at the start of something big with great purpose, and right now is the moment that we begin influencing the future. We can change the world." So I'd like to invite you to jump on with us, regardless of whether you're interested in just being a customer. I'd encourage you to go ahead and get a position, get started, get the products. But if you see more, we're here to help you. There's a great support system in place. I'd like to thank you for taking your time to join us tonight. Please get with the person that invited you on this call to answer any questions that you might have and show you how to get started. Thanks again. And with that, wish you all the very best. Just stop the recording.